Today on Who is That Saint? Meet the woman who redefined what it means to serve the poor. Saint Louise de Marillac didn't build an empire. She built something holier, a community of women who would take to the streets, not with swords or slogans but with habits, hospitals, and holy grit. She's the co-founder of the Daughters of Charity, the patron saint of social workers, and a quiet revolutionary in the church. Her story begins in Paris in 1591, born out of wedlock to a nobleman and a woman we know very little about. That alone would have marked her life with shame in the eyes of society. But her father made sure she was educated and raised well. When she was 13, her father died. That's when her life started getting harder. She was sent to a boarding school run by Dominican nuns. There her heart grew in faith. She felt a pull toward religious life, even considered joining a cloister. But God's plan was different, and not the one she wanted at first. A spiritual director told her she should marry. So she did. At 22, Louise married Antoine Legras, a court secretary to Queen Marie de Medici. They had a son, Michel. But the marriage was difficult. Antoine became seriously ill, both physically and mentally. Louise cared for him day and night for over a decade. She lived in uncertainty, isolation, and spiritual dryness. She even doubted her vocation, wondering if she'd misunderstood God. Then on Pentecost Sunday 1623, while praying in a chapel, she had a mystical vision. She saw a man she'd never met who would later become her spiritual director. She also received a deep interior confirmation. She was to remain in the world. She would serve the poor. And one day she would start a community of women who would do the same. 3 years later, her husband died. And shortly after, she met the man from her vision, Saint Vincent de Paul. At first he didn't want to direct her. He thought she was too emotional, too complicated. But he changed his mind, and the two became one of the greatest saintly duos in church history. Vincent was already working with a group of wealthy women in Paris, aristocrats who helped fund charities for the poor. But Louise saw what was missing: presence. Money alone wasn't enough. The poor needed hands, hearts, and feet. In 1633, she gathered a small group of young peasant women into her home. She taught them how to nurse the sick, educate girls, care for orphans, and most of all, how to love with dignity. That group became the Daughters of Charity. And here's what made them revolutionary. They were not cloistered. Until that point, most religious women were locked behind monastery walls. Louise flipped that model on its head. He said, "Your convent is the street. Your cloister is the hospital. Your enclosure is obedience. Your grill is the fear of God. Your veil is holy modesty." These women weren't nuns, they were sisters. And they hit the streets like spiritual paramedics. Under Louise's leadership, the Daughters of Charity opened hospitals, orphanages, schools, and homes for the elderly. They cared for galley prisoners, war victims, and even plague-stricken towns. By the time Louise died in 1660, the Daughters of Charity had spread across France and were just getting started. But make no mistake, this wasn't romantic. It was hard. Louise suffered from anxiety, depression, and recurring health problems. She often questioned herself. She even had moments where she worried she was displeasing God, despite changing the world. And that's what makes her relatable. She wasn't some flawless marble statue of virtue. She was a mother, a widow, a mystic, and a manager. She lost a husband. She nearly lost her mind. And still she gave everything she had to God. He once said, "Be diligent in serving the poor. Love the poor, honor them, my children, as you would honor Christ himself." Saint Vincent de Paul said he'd never known anyone more attuned to the sufferings of others than Louise. And coming from him, that's saying something. Louise de Marillac was canonized in 1934 by Pope Pius XI. In 1960, Pope John XI declared her patron of social workers. The Daughters of Charity she helped found still operate in 91 countries around the world. They run schools, clinics, refugee centers, soup kitchens, and they still wear their blue habits and walk the streets with the same fearlessness Louise taught them nearly 400 years ago. Saint Louise de Marillac teaches us that love is a verb. She wasn't interested in piety for its own sake. She believed holiness had to move toward the sick, the poor, the forgotten. She didn't become a saint by escaping the world. She became a saint by facing it, one suffering person at a time. And in doing so, she showed generations of women and men what it means to be Christ's hands and feet. Quote of the day: "The poor are our masters. We must serve them with love and respect, for in them we serve Jesus Christ. Saint Louise de Marillac.